All right, so for this game, we have what is essentially kind of a straight sequencing game. We have 6 positions to work with, 1 through 6, and I guess a bunch of elements to put into those positions, F, H, J, and then we've got N, P, T. It's worth noting there's nothing really irregular about the basic setup. Everybody just goes once into one of these 6 spots, so we can go through the rules. So the first rule says F is going to have to be older than both J and H. For the record, if there was any ambiguity, they do define what exactly is older. First is the oldest. So that's kind of the old side. So if F is older than J and H, essentially that tells us that F is going to have to go earlier than both J and H. Next, we are told that N and J are both older than T. Now we've already got a J on the board, so let's take advantage of that. We can say that N and J, both of these, are going to be older or earlier than the T, so that's pretty good. Next, we are told that either P is older than both H and N, or both H and N are older than P. So that's a bit of an involved rule. But okay, wait a minute. We've already got H and N on the board. So essentially, this is telling us that the P is either going to go before both of them, or is going to go after both of them. Now, there's a couple ways we can kind of symbolize this. We could symbolize this separately. We can also split this into 2 kind of elastic band kind of boards. But personally, to be honest, just to kind of simplify things, what I would do is just put both on the same kind of board. We can say that either we're going to have P ahead of N and H, or we're going to have P basically after both N and H. And it is worth kind of being cautious here. P, for example, does not have to go after T. You do want to be careful about that, right? T and P don't have a direct connection. T could stretch further down. Likewise, over here, P, if they're before, they don't have to be before F. F could also stretch all the way back into number 1. Now, in terms of kind of first and last positions, that it's always a good idea to kind of take a look. But to be fair, we have quite a bit of flexibility. Like, for example, we could have F or even N go first if the P goes later, but P could also go first as well. So there's 3 things that could go first. That's probably not that useful, but if you wanted to, you can always kind of put it in. We can have F, N, or P, and we get something similar for the last position. It would be essentially T or H, but P also could have gone last as well. So we could do T or H or P. Again, a 3-person kind of positioning isn't really that great, but I guess it's something. Otherwise, though, I mean, this is a pretty good elastic band kind of setup. So let's run with what we have. The questions. Question number 6. Which of the following could be the complete setup? As usual, the way that we approach this is by the original rules. So the first rule, F has to go ahead of J and H. Anything violate that? And A looks good, B looks good, C looks good. D has F after the J. That is not cool. E has F is ahead of J and H. We're good. Next, N and J are both ahead of T. So let's take a look. Answer choice A, T is after N and J. Answer choice B, T is before N. That does not work, so we can get rid of answer choice B. C has T at the end. That's fine. And E has, ooh, no, that's not going to work. T is before N and J. That's certainly out. So we are down to A and C. So once again, P either has to go before N and H or after both. Basically, it can't be in between them. So in A, P is after both of them. That seems legit. And answer choice C, P is in between them. That's not cool. That doesn't work. We can get rid of C, and that leaves us with answer choice A as the best answer for 6. And as usual, I guess let's plug that in. We essentially have F, H, J, and then followed by NPT. So from there, let's take a look at the locals. Looks like the first one is question number 9, and we've got, if F happens to be third, well, what does that tell us if F is third? Well, I suppose we know that F has to go before J, before T, and before H. That's pretty restrictive, which conveniently, we only have 3 spots available, right? So we know that H, J, and T are going to have to take up those 3 slots. I suppose we can even kind of leave ourselves a reminder here that says H/J before T. They're basically going to shuffle these 3 positions, which means I suppose that means that P now has to go before H, which means that P also has to go before N. So positions 1 and 2 are going to have to be P and N in that respective order. So that's pretty good. The question now asks, what must be second? And I suppose the answer is the necklace. Best answer here is C for question number 9. Next, question number 10. If P goes first, well, I suppose let's see if we can do that. If we have P in the first position, I suppose that obviously means that P is going to go ahead of N and H. That's kind of limited though, isn't it? Because afterwards, we can just disregard the P. All of these guys, I mean, there's plenty of flexibility in terms of what they could do, so I'm not sure there's much more we can figure out here. What does the question say? The question says, exactly how many artifacts are there, any of which could be second? So how many things could go second? I suppose it would just be 2, right? Because J, H, and T, they would have to go after F, so there's no way for them to go second. But N could go second, and F could just as easily, right? So we only have 2 things that could go second. The best answer to question number 10 is B. Next, number 11. So this one is a modifier question, I guess a substitution. So we'll come back to this one in a second. Let's go back to the globals question, number 7. Exactly how many artifacts, any of which could be first? And I suppose we've already answered that question, right? We identified F, N, and P as those that could be first. Now, to be fair, we haven't really proven that they could go first, but since all of the rules are just elastic bands, everything kind of stretches, everything moves around. There's really almost no reason that F, N, and P couldn't go first, because essentially they could just stretch. N could go all the way back into the first position as long as P goes after. F could easily stretch into the first position. Nothing would stop it, and we've already seen P do that. So yeah, the best answer to question number 7 becomes C. There are 3 elements that could have gone first. For the record, if you were a little bit uneasy, since again, we haven't technically proven that, we do have evidence that F and P could have gone first, so that's at least 2. The only real question becomes N, so what you would have to do is just try it out and see what happens if N goes first, and just confirm that it could. Anyways, next question number 8. Which of the following cannot be 4th? Well, let's use the history. The 4th position, we've seen N go there, and in this scenario, we could have had H, or we could have also had J. So it seems like H, J, and N could have gone 4th. That would get rid of answer choices B, C, and D. So that leaves us with A and E, F and P. Now, oh yeah, there it is. Wait a minute. F, we just said, F has to go before J, T, and H. There's 3 people that have to go after it, right? Which means that there's definitely no way to fit F in number 4, since there's only 2 spaces that will be remaining. So the best answer becomes answer choice A for question number 8. Lastly, question number 11. Which of the following, if we subbed for the rule that says that N and J are both before T? So we're trying to replace effectively this rule right here, that N and J are both before T. Now remember, a good answer choice to this sort of question is going to be something that always had to be true, and something that would ensure that N and J are going to end up before the T. Let's see what we can do. Answer choice A. T is older than H, and not, wait, that's already kind of a write-off, isn't it? Because T never had to be older than H. H could have easily stretched after T. So since this never had to be true, we can get rid of answer choice A right there. Answer choice B. F and N are both older than T. Now, ooh, this one's tempting, isn't it? Because it's true. F and N are both older than T. They have to be, right? But would this ensure that N and J are going to be older than T? Now, obviously, this would explicitly ensure that N is going to be older than T. But the thing is, by telling us that F is older than T, that doesn't actually tell us anything about J. The thing is, what we already know is that F has to go before J. And according to this rule, F would have to go before T, but that would still allow J and T to kind of go back and forth. That wouldn't actually ensure that J has to go before T. It would just ensure that F does, and J would be a little bit more flexible. So answer choice B is not what we're looking for. Next, answer choice C. N is older than T if and only if the J is. Oh, this one can be tempting too. But essentially what this rule is saying is that is basically either they're both going to be older than t, or neither of them could be, right? The necklace can be older than t if and only if the jar is as well. Essentially, they would have to both be older or neither could be older. But this allows for the possibility that neither of them could be older. Arguably speaking, if we accepted answer choice C, it would easily allow for the possibility that N and J would just go after T and nothing would break. So this wouldn't be good enough. This wouldn't ensure that they're both necessarily prior. Answer choice D. All of the artifacts except H and P must be older than T. So first of all, is that true that everything except for, actually, yeah, I suppose it is, because we have everybody's accounted for on the board, and outside of H and P, everybody else, N, J, and F, they all had to go before T. So it is absolutely true that except for H and P, everybody else, N, J, and F, would have had to go before T. And that actually does get the job done as well, doesn't it? Because if you say that everything else has to go before T, that includes N and J, and so it would force N and J to go before T. Best answer for question number 11 is D. Just in case though, answer choice E, the plaque is older than N if and only if the plaque is older than T. And is that true that P is older than N? Actually, no, I don't think it is. P arguably could have gone in between N and T, couldn't they? In which case, this never really had to be true. Moreover, this doesn't do much in terms of proving anything about J relative to T, and I'm not even sure that it does all that much in terms of proving N relative to T. So either way, answer choice E would be out on pretty much all counts. The best answer here is, answer choice D.